But there's also a threat going on, as you can imagine, to our allies. So they capture 30,000, but then there's like 70,000 missing total. They kill 10,000. They're able to do this because they're using biometrics, right? Biometrics we left behind. Those biometrics sit in the Ministry of Interior building, right? So I want people to understand, like, the Taliban are like really targeting these people, and that's how they're finding them and getting them. What a lot of people don't understand is kind of within the first year after the fall, the Taliban didn't really have the biometrics up and running. They almost faked it. Then they went to like the Chinese and the Iranians and they said, hey, help us fix, we can't get this all working. So they got the system working and then they got it deployed on mobile devices, right? So now it's at the border crossings. So I want Afghans to understand, if you went through a border crossing like 6 months after the fall and you were fine, don't assume you're fine now, because they didn't have it working then, even though they pretended it.
I mean, we're funding them again now, right?
I think we send like $40 million a week.
$40 million a week goes to Taliban.
Yes.
Who are taking our allies, lining them up like dogs, and shooting them in the back of the head.
Ugh.
And we're funding that.
And that's kind of what you hope they do. I mean, I've got videos that are very, very painful deaths.
What kind of deaths?
Torture deaths, some really bad beheading deaths of our allies, you know.
These are all the guys we used to work with over there.
Yeah, a lot of the people who worked with them get the video sent to them during or after to taunt. They were taunting when the airport was still open. Remember, the U.S. military, they were there, but they couldn't respond in any way to the situation going on. So to taunt them, the Taliban would grab a woman and shoot her in the head. They would burn a child alive in front of the military because they knew they couldn't act. They brought in 150 terrorists just for the ambassador's kidnapping. So half of them went on the compound and half of them cordoned off the street. So 150 terrorists. I mean, I don't even know if I can name any terrorist attack with extra 150 terrorists. And at least in our book, at least 50 of them are Al-Qaeda, and then the others are Al-Qaeda affiliates. So you need to understand this attack is massive.
And these are well-trained guys.
We very painstakingly made that clear. We walked through their entire history. So if they fought in the Afghanistan Mujahideen time, they're in there as that. If they fought in our Iraq wars, which started around 2003, 2004, they're in that. In between those two, though, that a lot of people forget is the Algerian Civil War. You know, 200,000 civilians were killed in that war.
I had no idea.
It was an insane jihad thing, and it always gets ignored. And then the Libyan Revolution.
How many countries are Al-Qaeda operating in?
Oh, gosh.
Do you have any idea?
In most countries, they at least have clandestine officers. You know, Al-Qaeda is so entrenched in places, they have, like, people working, like, visa lines at embassies in Europe, for example. I mean, think about it. How many years they've been in operation? There are plenty of people behind Al-Qaeda that don't shoot guns. They just get ignored. How many people involved in the finances? They're pretty global.
Do you think they're bigger than cartel?
It would depend. I mean, if they bring in as much money, you know, that's kind of where you get tough. But I think in bodies, they're bigger than a cartel. I mean, they have so much more reach than a cartel. You know, like their cartels are like regional. They might have an international tie. I mean, Al-Qaeda can kind of go anywhere and they have a power broker to help them do something.
What do you think the probability of another 9/11 attack?
I think exactly how it's done. It is hard to replace Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM, who planned it. I'm not going to lie. He was a genius. Do they want to do something at that level? Yes. Do I think that they will do something more innovative than 9/11? Definitely. Remember, they tried it with, obviously, the liquids on the airplanes. I think the next attack will probably be something more innovative. I don't think it's going to be 3,000, but I don't think it's going to matter if it's 3,000, right? Because they want to hit here and they want to show they can do it and they want to do something spectacular.